Hi gang, welcome to my very first video blog. I'm hoping to do a lot more of these in the future. I just got done watching the Iowa Republican presidential debates last night, and I guess I was so passionate about it I couldn't put it down in writing. I needed to do something in video. So we decided to grab the camera and see what we could do. Now, if you've not been following my blog, or if this is the first one you're seeing on YouTube, then you'll know that I really don't comment on the politics of the candidate. Basically what I do is I look at the way they said it, how they could have said it better, or maybe they didn't say it good at all, that could have been changed. I coach politicians, and in that I coach a lot of debate strategy. And a lot of what I talk about is not what you say, but how you say it. So what I'm going to look at today is the very first two questions. The ones that were done by Brett and Chris Wallace. Now, right here, you will see that I have the websites to the YouTube channel of where you can see the debate yourself. And you can follow along as I go. I plan to cover each candidate one at a time. And I've got some comments about the debate as a whole. Let's get going on this. Now, I've taken a lot of notes, and I was writing pretty fast and furious. Now, the first question went to Michelle Bachmann, and I don't know what she was thinking. I really don't. What she did was she tried to do a rally speech in a debate. Michelle, I think you're a good candidate, and I like you as a speaker, but this isn't a rally. It's a debate. You're supposed to tell us what you're going to do, not just run down Obama and go rah, 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 cheer for me. And if you notice, no one really cheered. Her opening question landed very flat. Basically, right technique, wrong venue. Then we moved on to Mitt Romney. Now, he had a really interesting take on this. He did a nice job. It wasn't super, it didn't get the crowd into it, but the thing he really did well was he laid out what he was going to talk about the rest of the night. He laid out the 7 things that he would do as president if he gets elected. And that's what he's going to set up for the rest of the evening. I thought that was really a good way to make your opening question. He kind of ignored the question a little bit because he wanted to do this. Now, part of the debate problem here was that no one got an opening statement. Usually in debates they get an opening statement where Mitt Romney would have been able to say this. Unfortunately, there wasn't any opening statements, so he just kind of had to fit it into the question. But he still did it really nicely. Then we moved on to Ron Paul. Now, his comments weren't bad, and Ron Paul has a very big following, but he did something that really probably set him off for the rest of the evening. When they asked him the follow-up question, when Brett asked him the follow-up question, he stalled. It was clear he wasn't prepared for the question. It was clear he wasn't ready. And here's the thing, is it's okay to be lost. It's just not okay to look lost. If instead of just stammering and looking at the floor, if you just kind of like, well, Brett, you know, that's an awesome question. And I want to give you the best answer I can. Now, this would have given him time to think and come up with his answer. Because eventually he did come up with a good answer. But that stall in the middle, it's just leaving him look really unconfident. That's just a matter of practice with questions and answers. Then it was Kane's turn to ask her question. I actually think Kane is the best speaker of the group. He did something a little interesting, and it's very different than what Mitt Romney did, but in a similar vein. Let me explain. Mitt Romney explained all the 7 things he was going to talk about all night. The problem with that is all you really have time to do is list them. Throughout the night, Kane would pick just one thing he wanted to talk about during his quick 1 to 2 minute answer. And that's a really clever way to do it because you really have time to express itself. During the Chris Wallace question, Chris Wallace actually threw out like 3 things that he wanted to talk to, and Kane replied with, well, I only got a minute, pick one. And that's a good idea because if you're just glancing over everything, you really don't have time to really get in depth. A lot of speakers try to put too much material into the time they have. Now, with all that being said, during the first question, I think that Kane was suffering from nerves, which is kind of surprising because he's such a fluid speaker. It could be that he's just such a great speaker that he could get away with having the nerves. But he was doing this a lot.
See what I'm doing right now? I'm blinking. This usually means there's something going on inside you that's just not quite right. And I think that King would probably benefit from sitting down with somebody and finding out what that little something was and removing it. Not that it was really causing him a lot of problems. He was still speaking very fluently, but that's probably because he's just so good at doing the technicals. But imagine how much better he would be if that nervousness or unsure or unconfident in your answer was gone. And he could just stand there, look straight at the camera, and answer his question.
Then we went on to Huntsman. And I don't know what he was doing or what he thought he was doing, but he kept doing this. And does this feel good? Does this feel good to you? I'm talking like this. I'm obviously ticked off, and I want to make sure that you're ticked off too. Put your hands down. Stop pointing at everybody. Nobody likes it. He could really take a page from when Newt Gingrich did his talk, is he started out very, very calm. And Newt Gingrich was our next speaker, and I want to actually point that out. He started out very calm, very relaxed. I love this hand position here. It was a very calm hand position. Now, eventually, as the question went on, he got worked up. And that's good. It was a great way to segue into what he wanted to say. But in case of Huntsman, this just really shouldn't be there. Now, all these questions were from Brent, and they were pretty good questions. I liked them. They had pretty good answers. Then we got into Chris Wallace. Now, he did the second questions. I will start by saying that these were terrible questions. These questions were just designed to put people on the hot seat. They really weren't focused on what you're going to do as president, and they were kind of more questions to highlight Chris than to highlight the candidate. Chris really needs to remember what his job is. His job is to give an opportunity to these candidates to tell the American people and convince the American people what they're going to do. He's not doing that. I actually had this same feeling about Chris Wallace at the last presidential debates. And when he was coming up and it was his turn to ask questions, I kind of went, here we go. First question, terrible question. Then he gets Michelle Bachmann and Tim Pawlenty into a fight. Stop trying to get the ratings and start trying to get information. My favorite part of the night was when Newt Gingrich called Chris Wallace out. And he actually said, quit asking the got you questions. And that's exactly what Chris Wallace is trying to do. If you have to set up your question with 30 seconds of commentary, then it's not a question. I see the press do this all the time. Chris isn't the only one who does this. They basically have something they want to say, and so they put it in the question so they can be on camera saying it. But the night isn't about Chris Wallace. The night is about the politicians, and he needs to focus on that. I thought Newt Gingrich calling him out was masterful, and here's why. Because whenever you can call out something the audience is already feeling, either positive or negative, like in this case, the audience joins in with you. They get it. Right after Newt Gingrich said, you got to stop asking these gotcha questions, the audience cheered. Because the whole audience is feeling it. Now, we go back to Chris Wallace, and he turns around and says something to defend himself. The audience boos him. Once again, not a very professional attitude by Chris. And unless he's willing to change his tactics, I really don't think he should be invited to be doing the questions on these debates anymore. He's definitely in the way and not presenting the candidates in the best light, which is really why they're there. It's really why they're there. Yes, you want to ask them tough questions, but those aren't questions. They're just basically taking things out of context to try to stick these people and make them look bad. That's not his job. That's not what he's there. Brett did a really nice job. Chris, you need to work on it. Now that being said, let's talk about the answers they did do. As I mentioned, because of Chris Wallace's questions, Michelle Bachmann and Tim Pawlenty basically got into a heated exchange over nothing, over a brief comment that they said. They always say something about, well, we didn't like the way you did this, we didn't like the way you did that. The way they attacked each other didn't put either one of them in a good light. They both got hot under the collar. They both decided that they were going to attack each other, and that never works well. It just doesn't. The debate should be focused on what you want, not on what you think about somebody else. Pawlenty kind of started it off, and his comments were, maybe a little heavy-handed. And then Michelle Bachmann definitely took offense to it, which she shouldn't have. A great speaker will stay calm, even under fire. And one of my favorite ones ever was when Ronald Reagan was in a debate, was asked about his age, was asked about the age question. That's what they said. What do you think about the age question? And basically he responded with, well, I don't think I should take advantage of my opponent's youth and inexperience. And everybody laughed, and the question was done. If Michelle Bachmann had handled it the same way, if she had just kind of, well, that's his opinion, I think I would do this, and I would do that, it all would have swept under the rug. It wouldn't have been a big confrontation between the two of them, and she would have came out looking better. Mitt Romney did something in the second set of questions I really, really liked. And I want to really spend a little bit of time with this one, because he did something I would consider an expert debating technique. He was talking about what he had, what he brought to the table, which was the idea that he was from the private sector. And he pointed out that him and Kane were the only two that had that experience. And that if you wanted that experience, you needed either go to him or Kane. Brilliant. And this is why it's brilliant. Because what you're saying is, you don't want me, you want X. You want this. You want this quality. You want to be able to do this thing. You want to be able to buy this product. And we would love you to buy it from us, but if you don't buy it from us, get it from somewhere. It works in sales, and it worked here. It was brilliant. Plus, instead of attacking one of the other candidates, he actually boosted one of the other candidates, which again makes him look better. And I'm sure that Kane probably maybe backed off a little bit on attacking Mitt Romney because he was so generous there. This is a really great technique that any politician or anyone in sales can really watch. And that's the technique is, this is what you want. We would love you to get it from me, but if you don't get it from me, get it from somebody. That brings me to the end of my first video blog. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed making it. And I hope that the tips I presented here will help you be more successful and profitable when speaking for your company or doing sales, or maybe you're a politician, or wherever you have to use your voice to convince anyone of anything. If you want to find out more, join me on my website. And there's all kinds of tips, advice, and other videos, and keep an eye open for other video blogs. In fact, I'll be doing more on the Iowa debates coming up soon. See you later.